Why does Nate Bagley need to meet Bree Groff? You're going to love watching these two meet for the first time. And hey, today was fun. I'm obligated to say that, not just because it's Bree's excellent new book that you're going to want to read, because this is what we talked about. All sorts of fun stuff. We talked about relationships, home, work, romantic, all of them. We talked about existential dread, Bree's parental cancer story, how that pushed her into writing the book, how Nate reflects back on seeing this with the blanket of despair around us in these times and making meaning out of it that doesn't destroy us, doesn't weigh us down. And of course, the magic ratio for love, for work, and even 7th grade math classrooms. That's right, Jack Forehand. Let's roll some clips.
My mom was diagnosed with a terminal cancer in 2022. My father already had Alzheimer's. I'm an only child. So I took immediate leave from work. I'm like, we are in it. We're going to do this. It was like the first time that I'd been so like in an existential situation before where we are like, my mom's getting a prognosis. We're trying to figure out like if the days are numbered, how are we going to spend them? And that, but from that perspective, from the land of our days are numbered, it just felt so like sacrilegious in some way. Like, oh my God, we are wishing away our days when at some point we are going to realize how very finite they are. We are not valuing our days at work properly. When we value ourselves as human resources, as like an input to productivity, we're not thinking about our lives or our work correctly.
I wouldn't be surprised if 9 out of 10 people, if I asked them if they could have one thing today, what would it be? If they would say just a nap. Like everybody's exhausted emotionally and physically. Everybody, like things are getting more expensive. We're working harder. And it's like, man, I'm already doing so much with so little. Like, I think there's this underlying fatigue in society. And I think that Friday represents like a short window of respite. The Gottman research that mirrors this is they discovered this thing called the magic ratio. And they found that the happiest, most fulfilled couples have a ratio of 20 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction. And during times of conflict, that drops down to 5 to 1.
You're watching Just Press Record right here on Cultish Creative YouTube. Shout out to Panoptica and Epsilon Theory. I'm Matt Ziegler. This is my live action networking show where I take two strangers who've never met before. I put them together, see if they can guess just why I wanted them to meet. So let's dive in. This first guest, I need 3 Nates to make up this one very singular Nate. Now, the first part, I'm going with a Nathan's hot dog because what is the combination of those flavors? Why is it so magical? And this other guest could probably take a trip out to Coney Island and get us some. But nobody knows. But the world is a better place because of all those flavors. And if I'm being frank, and yes, I'm not above making that pun, he's also part Nate from Ted Lasso. A real wonder kid. Seriously, the work experience from relationship psychology to consulting to financial services and now HR, the wonderkind. We're going to get it right for him. And last but not least, Nate Dogg, yes, because he's a regulator. He knows how to balance it all. And let's put 16 in the clip and 1 in the hole for the head of content for Nectar, Mr. Nate Bagley. Welcome to Just Press Record.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Best intro ever.
It's so good to have you here because I get to introduce you to this next guest. And so first and foremost, excuse me, miss, I think you have my red stapler, Milton. And I promise this is going to make some sense here. But I want to shout out Milton because I promise I will burn this place down if somebody doesn't appreciate this reference. I keep this on my desk because I think it's fun. And I like that this guest understands the importance of putting some fun into work. And who else does she remind me of? I'm going to go with, tell me if you recognize this name, Miss Valerie Felicity Frizzle. Do you recognize that name?
Miss Frizzle?
Miss Frizzle?
Yeah, did you know her full name was
No.
Valerie Felicity Frizzle? I didn't until this morning. But Miss Frizzle in that magic school bus, because she knows a thing or two about teaching and leading and how they all go hand in hand with some magic, not just red staplers or school buses. But we're going to get into that. And last but not least, because I hear she's reading more fiction lately, I don't want to throw out a little Billy Pilgrim. Do you know Billy Pilgrim from Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five? I'm adding to your fiction stack by the end of this conversation. So Billy Pilgrim famously gets unstuck from the space-time continuum. And because I know you have a healthy amount of existential dread in the way that you approach life, which I deeply appreciate, my wife is already cursing and laughing at me watching this, but Billy Pilgrim says in the book, when a person dies, he only appears to die. He's still very much alive in the past, so it's very silly for people to cry at funerals, All moments have always existed and always will, and so it goes. And what else goes? Life, work, and this guest, most recently author of a book I loved, especially the audio version. I want to give flowers to that. My God, today was a fun book about work. Seriously, it's Bree Groff. Welcome to the show, Bree Groff.
Thanks. You really are killer at intro. That was awesome.
Matt does not mess around.
I'm not here to mess around. I'm here to do stuff like this. And not one cheese reference. I just want to, yes, I'm having fun. But I avoided all cheese references after a couple of bad attempts this morning. All right. Opening quote. Nate, I got to read you this. This is straight from Bree. And I really do recommend that audiobook. Like,
thanks.
What a job. What a job. What a job. Okay. Which is why I can't hold your book up, because I cheated and went straight to audio. So this is the quote. Nate, I want your live reaction. Work should be fun. It should feel human. We should do it with friends and make brilliant things with a sense of perspective as one joyful part of a big, beautiful life, because everything else is accoutrement. Where does that strike you, Nate? You've seen a few things about work. How do you
That
feel?
hits me right where my Nathan's hot dogs hit me, right in it gave me butterflies. Bree, I think we're destined to be friends. I already know why we're supposed to be talking.
Oh,
All right.
I love it. Yeah.
Bree, like with that quote, that's towards the end of the book there. This is a big like statement about what's going on. But like, what is this book? Why did you feel inclined to write this book and tell this story?
Yeah, so you're right. I do have a good bit of existential dread. The book is very much the existential case for employee engagement, or just put more simply, like the case for why we should not throw away 5/7 of our week as the input to a paycheck or the input to a company's bottom line. Because those are the finite days we have on the planet. And so if we the humans are designing work, why shouldn't we do our best to design it, based on the quote that you read for the book, where we're doing it amongst friends. We're generally having fun at work most days anyway. We're doing it with a sense of perspective. And it's just one part of a bigger life.
What do you think about that, Nate? How's that strike you, especially with your work today?
I love it. I think there's so much space for us to enjoy life more, all aspects of life. I'm a big believer that oh man, my brain's all over the place. I have this design thinking book sitting right next to me. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that longitudinal research study about how the biggest impact on long-term happiness is the relationships that you cultivate. I'm just thinking about all sorts of my personal gripes of how so many work could be so much better for so many people if we were just a little bit more thoughtful and intentional about how we showed up and how we recognize and acknowledge people and how we make people feel as we go throughout our day. And anyway, my brain is all over the place right now, but I'm so excited. Tell me, this is all just based on that one quote. That's all I'm feeling right now. I want to know, can you rewind for me and set the stage for like what inspired you to write a book about employee engagement and enjoying work?
Yeah, for sure. So my career has been in consulting, culture consulting, employee experience, some strategy and purpose work, but largely about what is the human experience of going to work. So over the decade plus of consulting, I've been really fortunate to get to interview hundreds of people on like, what's your life like at work? What's easy? What's hard? What's getting in the way? What makes a good day? And so I'd been doing that consulting, and I felt like I had a lot of professional experience there. My master's is in learning and organizational change. So like I'm very intellectually interested in it. But then I had a personal experience that's like knocked me on my ass as well. So my mom was diagnosed with a terminal cancer in 2022.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks. My father already had Alzheimer's. I'm an only child. So I took immediate leave from work. I'm like, we are in it. We're going to do this. I'm going to do my best for my parents. They always did their best for me.
That is so hard. That is a lot.
It was a real asteroid.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah. Because it was like the first time that I'd been so like in an existential situation before where we are like, my mom's getting a prognosis. We're trying to figure out, like, if the days are numbered, how are we going to spend them? And that was a really different, like, being in that mode, in that sort of like the days are numbered mode, was really, really different from when I would check in with friends at work and they'd be like, oh my God, can it be Friday already? Which, like, I used to say all the time, or it's like something we say in chit chat, like, oh my God, it's only Wednesday. But from that perspective, from the land of our days are numbered, it just felt so, like, sacrilegious in some way. Like, oh my God, we are wishing away our days when at some point we are going to realize how very finite they are. And so it just gave me a push to put some of my ideas out there about we are not valuing our days at work properly. When we value ourselves as human resources, as like an input to productivity, we're not thinking about our lives or our work correctly. And so out popped the book. And the book are 7 rules for better days at work and in life. That's sort of the structure of the book. But with the underlying premise being that work should actually be a source of joy most days, not all days, but most days, and also one of many in our lives.
Beautiful summary. Can I ask how your parents are doing?
So yes, my mom passed away later that year. So she lived about 9 months from diagnosis to when she died.
Sorry, complete your thought, and then I'll ask you another question if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Open book. That's what we're here for, right?
Cool.
Yes. And then my father's hanging in there. He's with the Alzheimer's, he has aphasia, so he really doesn't like speak or communicate.
That is a cruel, cruel disease.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a more poignant word than that.
I watched my grandparents a couple years ago deal with the dementia, Alzheimer's stuff.
I'm sorry.
How many years into it are you two, Bree, with Dad?
About like 8 years in or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your grandparents.
Oh, I appreciate that. I want to know, what did you mentioned that when you found out your mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, that it kind of was a little bit of a wake-up call, and you had the my days are numbered kind of moment. Is there anything that you did between the diagnosis and when she passed that you wouldn't have done otherwise that is particularly special to you?
That's such a good question.
It could have been like an adventure, like checking something off a bucket list with her. It could have just been like a meaningful conversation that came up that wouldn't have come up otherwise. But I'm just curious if in that window there was something particularly meaningful that crept out.
I suppose we didn't do a particularly meaningful thing, although I definitely cared less about spending money on fancy New York restaurants. We're like, if this money doesn't have to last long, it's gonna, if not here for a long time, it's gonna be a good time. So we lived it up in that way. But I think it was the perspective shift was really profound in that, like, we did all sorts of normal, lovely things. We would like go to the park, we would make smoothies, we go to Trader Joe's. We would do a weekly brunch with my husband and daughter. I mean, actually, I moved my parents from Chicago to New York for my mom's wishes to be closer. So, like, she always wanted to live in New York, and so that was pretty cool. But I think, like, the perspective shift for me was, like, I could really feel it in my bones when I was spending my time in accordance with my values. Like, when I was next to my mom in the hospital, I knew 1,000% that is exactly where I needed to be. I didn't give 2 shits about the fact that, like, I had, FMLA, paid family leave, which is a portion, and then eventually I took unpaid leave. Like, that is what savings are for.
Yeah.
And then I think in every moment, I was just like, I am soaking this in. Like, it was just very apparent that I couldn't be distracted or have my head in. I was like, this moment right now, drinking a smoothie with my mom, this is peak life. I'm gonna get every corner of this joy. And I never had really felt like that before, because it never felt so urgent.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nate, I want to ask you a question based on a
Mhm.
word that you just said, and that's this word peak life. What do you make of those two words next to each other?
Peak life. I think there's something to be said about living your life really thoughtfully. And I think it's really easy. Humans love routine. Humans love predictability. Humans love safety. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in the rhythm of life and forget to look around. And what one is, okay, this is the second time my brain has gone back here. My ADHD brain has gone back to this. So Doug Braun-Harvey is a really good friend of mine. He's a sex therapist. He lives in San Diego, and he developed this system called the 6 Principles of Sexual Health. I promise this is going to tie in.
If it doesn't, that's cool too. I'm still
this
interested.
Just gets weird now. We're all here.
But he's this huge advocate for having sexual health conversations, especially with men. And one of the things when he's talking about sexual health, he says sexual health is a balance of safety and pleasure. And that analogy, that balance, that teeter-totter, that scale of safety on one side and pleasure on the other, keeps coming back to me over and over and over again in relationship to life. I think sexual health isn't just a balance of safety and pleasure. I think we go through life balancing safety and pleasure. And I think the safety comes in the predictability. It comes in the routine. It comes in the, there's all these things that we do to create some sort of mental and emotional safety for ourselves, or financial safety, or psychological safety. And I think oftentimes, especially these days when things are a little chaotic and all over the place, we tend to prioritize safety over pleasure. And that teeter-totter doesn't really balance out very well. And pleasure requires a sense of novelty, a sense of surprise, a sense of intentionality, a sense of curiosity. It's things that can oftentimes kick us out of our routine and kick us out of the things that are really consistent and predictable. And so when I hear you talk about peak life and sitting next to your mom drinking a smoothie, it's like, okay, this isn't your normal routine. This isn't the normal thing that you would have done on any other day. But to me, peak life is like thinking about, oh my gosh, I've surrounded myself with a little bit too much safety. And it's thinking about what's the thing I want. And it's really cool when that thing becomes crystal clear. Because I think it's really hard and even risky to say what you want. Because the moment you say what you want, you run the risk of not being able to get it. If you can never own a desire, then you're safe from disappointment. And it sounds like in that moment of your life, in that phase of your life, it was very clear to you what was most important and what you wanted. And you weren't ashamed to say or think, this is what I want, and to just do it. And I think there's something really, really special about being in moments like that, where you know exactly what you want and you find yourself there doing it. You're doing the thing that you want. And like you said, you're looking around and you're like, there's nowhere else that I would rather be in the entire world. That's really special. That's a really special thing.
That
was a very meandering response, but
that was an awesome response also. I now have so much to say about the intersection of sexual theory and work. So because of that sort of feeling of would you say risk and pleasure, or no,
safety and pleasure,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read it. There's a quote in the book. I'm talking people through this exercise about trying to find moments of joy in your life. And so that it says, if your last few months have been great ones, then you might think back to when you felt the most eroticism at work. Sorry if you work in HR and need a minute to finish reading that last sentence, take your time. If you're having an office affair and are wondering how I knew, gotcha. Just kidding. Here we'll use psychotherapist Esther Perel's definition of eroticism.
I love Esther Perel.
Right?
Who
The
does?
qualities of vitality, curiosity, and spontaneity that make us feel alive. Have you ever felt like that at work? And I think I really like using the word pleasure in relation to work. Milton Glaser, who I cite in the book, the famous designer, he also was like a big fan of using the word pleasure with work and was sort of shocked when people found that odd or unprofessional, because there's something so confident about it. There's something like, as you say, like the confidence to say what you want is so aligned with the notion of pleasure. It's like having a confidence in the value of your experience. And also it's so aligned with, in business, like how we take 1.5 million years to make a decision because no one can actually say, I think this is a great idea and we should do this.
Yeah.
I think creating this product, going to this market, whatever it is, would make me really happy and make me feel alive. And like that's the source code for a lot of fun at work, is just the ability to say, this would light me up. I'd love to work on it. And yet we don't go there. It feels somehow unprofessional if we're not like, I don't know, citing statistics to back up our claims. So anyway, that's where your thoughts took me.
There's something to be said about like running your business in such a way that the only things that matter are the things that can be tracked on a spreadsheet. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you at all. And it takes out the room for like the poetrry of this stuff, because I think that's where people get hung up on a word like pleasure, or they get hung up on eroticism and bringing it in. It's like, no. Poetically, we could add this.
Yeah.
We can put a little bit of that math and magic together. Sometimes it's okay. Nate, just because Bree would have no idea, tell her a little bit about the relationship work you did
Yay.
before you landed up in content for HR firms.
Yeah, there's this we have so much to talk about.
There's too much.
So what you said you did with people when you interviewed people about their work and the satisfaction that they were experiencing in the workplace and things like that. I did the same thing, except for people who are in long-term romantic relationships and married.
So cool.
So I was really curious. In my mid-20s, I was really frustrated that I knew I wanted to get married and have a family. And I became, are you familiar with the term the good luck Chuck? Good luck Chuck?
No.
So good luck Chuck is the guy who every girl he dates goes on to marry the next guy she dates. So he'll break up with a girl and then she gets married.
He's the penultimate lover.
Yeah. So I used to joke that like, if you want to get married, just date me for a few weeks and then we'll break up and then you'll find your spouse, the next person you date. And I was getting really frustrated with that situation because I knew I wanted to have a family and I knew I wanted to get married, and my friends were getting married and I had younger siblings getting married, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And so I thought, and I guess contrast that with this idea that I was very clear that there are different types of marriage. There were times in my life where I would like see couples interact and I'd be like, I never want to be like that. And there were other times where I'd meet like a really rare couple who just had this energy and this electricity in their relationship, and I'm like, what are they doing that everybody else is missing out on? Because it feels like everybody else has a pretty boring marriage and those people have something really unique and special. So I thought to myself, look, I know what I want. I know I'm failing over and over again. So what if I go out and I try and find those couples who have that electricity, and I interview as many of them as I can, and I look for the commonalities, the bright spots. What are the things that they're doing that nobody else is doing? And I did this long cross-country road trip, and I interviewed couples from every walk of life. I interviewed gay couples and straight couples and people in arranged marriages and people who in mixed faith marriages and people who I interviewed a polygamous family. Like I interviewed just all sorts of different people who just claimed to have something really special. And I just tried to collect insights on what was working. And then I started getting introduced to therapists and authors and researchers and realized that there was an entire body of work of people who'd spent their entire careers and lives studying this question that I was fascinated by. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that became my career for the better part of a decade, is trying to help couples have really strong relationships based on the insights and the things that I learned.
That is so awesome. I also see now why we're arranged friends.
Yeah.
Friends, yeah.
Arranged friends. I love this.
That could have been the name of the series.
Yes.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, what? So first of all, like, what a way to turn a frustration into a career.
Yeah. Thanks.
And like a curiosity into a body of work and some answers. And also, like, I'm a drop in the bucket compared to what you did, but one of my early like side jobs was I was a research assistant at eHarmony working on their marriage product. So we did
Matt, you're a wizard.
I was waiting for that one to come out organic.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it did. All right.
So that was some of the research we were doing. So I was like back in the day before AI or all of this, like I was by hand coding the facial expressions and body language of people on dates so that we could draw some insights into
you guys had
like
your own Gottman Love Lab.
Kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
cool.
And we were doing experiments on capitalization or the notion of like when your partner comes to you with good news, how do you respond to that? Could we teach people to respond better and more like affirmatively? Anyway,
No, don't anyway this. This is fascinating. I want you to keep talking.
Yeah.
I actually, while you were talking, I'm like, I wonder if I can get her email address and have her like send me this research because I would love to read it.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder even what came of it later, but the idea was that, right, like you could respond one of three ways to your partner's good news. Your partner could say like, oh, I called Comcast and they fixed the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say like, great, right, like sort of flat. Or you could respond like, you did that today, but you were supposed to be doing this today, like, or obviously the best way, which is like, oh my God, it's so hard, so annoying to get people out there. Thank you so much for doing that. And so we were trying to teach people how to capitalize on the good news because the research, at least then, was showing that how you respond to a partner's good news was disproportionately more important than how you respond to a partner's bad news. And everyone thinks like, oh, your partner is supposed to be there for you when you're down, and that's important. But more important was how you build each other up. So,
oh man, I love that so much. Who was I listening to? I think it was, what's his name? Alex Hormozy. He's a business guy, and he was talking about what makes a real friend. And he's like, some people think a real friend is somebody who will be there for you in the hard times. But he's like, I found that those, it's great to have friends like that. But the real friends are the ones who are excited for you when you have the good times. And that's so rare for somebody to be excited about a success or a win and be able to share in that with you without like, without being jealous or without trying to tear it down or without trying to be like, oh, making it about them.
Right. Yeah.
It's very, and I think that, there's something really special about finding somebody who can just be happy for you when something great happens.
Oh my God, we could talk for hours. Also, one of the things I coded for, because we coded for language in dates as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually kind of doing it now, so I'm self-conscious of this, but we coded for self-redirects of how many times someone would say something and then they would be like, that happened to me once, as opposed to, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
So now that I've just done that, back to you.
It was relevant though. No, it was relevant.
Wait, this is amazing. So then what happened? So you did this for a decade and then what?
Yeah, what happened? What happened, Nate? Where did you go as all this research started to take off and get some attention?
Where did I go?
Yeah, what happened?
Like location-wise?
No. Well, you can do that too if you want location, but
no, I feel like you're queuing me up for something, and I don't want to miss the pitch, the softball over the plate.
It just kept evolving. I'm curious, some of the people that you worked with, some of the experiences that you had as you started to do this work in public.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to work with a lot of really amazing people. I think the culmination of everything, I started hosting these events. I would do events and workshops, and I found that there was a real need for couples. Like date night is so important, but date night is so often like lazy. It's just dinner and a movie. And so I started putting together this regular event and it was part entertainment. So I'd hire like a magician or a comedian or an improv troupe or something like that. And we would do some entertainment. And then we would always pair it with some sort of like relationship talk. So I'd rent out like a high school auditorium and we would have sponsors. So romantic, but it was, whatever. And we'd play fun music and we'd have like some cool entertainment. And then we would end it with like a marriage workshop. And the last one that I was able to do was right before COVID. And John and Julie Gottman came and they spoke. Cool. And I got to interview them in front of an audience of 3,000 people. And it was this super magical, wonderful night, followed up by, it was actually, this is something that I don't know that anybody really knows this. After we did that event, they're like, this is the biggest crowd we've ever had that was gathered just for us. Like we've spoken at big events in the past, but it's always been in conjunction with like a larger, like people weren't here just for us. And they're like, this is the biggest like main stage talk we've ever had. And they were promoting their new book, 8 Dates. And they're like, do you think we could do this again? And I was like, oh, absolutely. What if we did a book tour for you guys? And we picked 8 major cities in the United States and we traveled to those 8 cities and we did 8 date nights to celebrate your 8 Dates book. And we started brainstorming and they got really excited about it. And they're like, what if we go down to Houston, Texas and we share the stage with Brene Brown? And I was like, that would be amazing. And they're like, but we don't know her. And I'm like, well, I have an email address of like, we had exchanged emails a long time ago. And so I had a couple of contacts over there and I ended up writing the letter on behalf of John Gottman to Brene Brown to make that introduction happen. And I don't know what ended up becoming of it, but I do know that since then they've done a lot of stuff together. And I like to think that maybe there's something that I did along the way that helped make that connection happen. So
you did something. If nothing else, putting them on stage and showing them.
By no means am I taking credit, but we obviously couldn't do any events or anything because COVID happened and it just kind of derailed the entire thing. But that was a really fun, exciting moment in my life to sit there with the godparents of modern marriage research and be able to interview them on a stage in front of 3,000 people and then have that conversation afterwards. It was really cool.
That's so cool. Also, I also sort of love that it's like you professionally dated the Gottsman and then introduced them to Brene Brown. Like your streak of like, date me for a little and then I'll introduce you.
The worst good luck, Chuck.
Yeah, there
like
you go.
The biggest good luck, Chuck.
Have fun together.
No, that's amazing.
Thanks. It's pretty wild.
Wow. So I'm so curious from your research, what did you take away? Like, what is the magic dust?
There's a ring on that guy's finger. Somebody put a ring. He figured it.
Figured it out. Man, once again, we could talk for like a week about this stuff.
Am I asking you to summarize a decade's worth of research and questions? Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Spontaneously.
There's so much that goes into making a modern relationship work. I really, there's a book called The All or Nothing Marriage. Clickety clack. I just want to make sure it's Eli Finkel. I just wanted to make sure I got his name. So Eli Finkel is a researcher who wrote this book called The All or Nothing Marriage. And he talked about how the expectations that we have for relationships today and how different they are from past generations and how on average, like marital happiness declines over time. And the percentage of couples who find themselves to be like very happy in their relationships is getting smaller and smaller. And it's largely connected to the fact that the demands and expectations that we have for modern marriage is growing more and more. The things that we used to, Brene Brown, Esther Perel talks about this, how the needs that we used to get fulfilled by a community are now being fulfilled, or even by deity. We're now expecting our partner to fulfill. And so, getting a modern relationship to work requires a lot. Now, there's like skills development, there's mindset that like, if you want to have something really special, it requires more than it's ever required before from a person. And so I think the most important thing in my decade of research that I I would recommend to people, the most important thing you can have in a relationship is having a growth mindset, is understanding. I talk about this concept of roommate syndrome.
Mm.
And I kind of stole or repackaged this idea from a guy named David Schnarch. And he basically talks about how the problems that we encounter in our relationships, as you know, the longer we're together, the more problems we run into. Those problems are a feature, not a bug. I call it roommate syndrome because I feel like the thing that people think of when they hear that phrase kind of resembles what I'm talking about. It's the two ships passing in the night. It's, you know, we're arguing a little bit more. We're a little more short-tempered. We have less time for each other. We're not flirting and dating as much as we used to. We're, you know, there's just a lot of things that are creeping in. The thoughts and the feelings that are creeping into our relationship are very much like, did I choose the right person? Is this what our life is going to be like for forever? Like, I'm getting really tired of this. I don't know how much longer I can deal with this issue or these specific problems. I'm not, like, when I see my partner, I don't really light up anymore. Is this bad? Like, are we destined for divorce? You know, there's little fears that can creep in when those issues arise. And I love the idea of thinking about them as a feature and not a bug. And the way David Schnarch talks about it is he says that, that most marriages are made up of, he uses this in the term, he's also a sex therapist, but I think this has a broader application. He says, a lot of people claim that their marriage is built around compatibility, but really it's they're a marriage of what he calls leftovers. And he says, so you identify all the things that you don't like, that you don't want to do, that are boring to you or disgusting to you. And those are all like in this area over here. And we just say, we're never going to talk about or do or address those things. And then you identify all the things that are gross or bothersome or annoying or frustrating to you. And we put those over here. And then whatever's left over, where there's that overlap of things that are okay to talk about, that's what our marriage consists of. It consists of only the things that are left over after we all rule out the topics and ideas and activities that either one of us doesn't want to participate in. And he says, your marriage really starts to come to life when you start to actually pick those things up and examine them and step outside that leftovers zone and decide, like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something here that, like, maybe we do need to have this conversation, or maybe I was a little too judgmental about this or too harsh about putting this in the do not talk about or do not experience zone. And I should lean into that a little bit. And the way that you get out of that roommate rut is you outgrow it. And the way that you outgrow it is by learning to tolerate anxiety, more tension in favor of growth. Like, growth doesn't happen with a little bit of tension and anxiety and maybe even a little bit of dread first. And so I think there's too many people who come into a relationship expecting it to be warm fuzzies and happiness and ice cream and glitter all the time. And I think that growth mindset is basically making a commitment that, hey, when things get hard, I'm actually going to lean in and make myself more uncomfortable, because in the long run, it means that's what I have to do to help us outgrow the current state that we're in, the current problem that we're facing. The other alternative is to run away from that discomfort, and that avoidance puts you down a path where the problems just get worse over time, which I think is the thing that leads to people experiencing less happiness and satisfaction longitudinally.
That's so interesting. It reminds me in many ways of, so like in public speaking, whenever I feel nervous, I've trained myself to say, I'm not nervous, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
same physiological response.
Exactly. Like, my adrenaline, is like preparing me. So like, my body's doing this thing, I need to interpret it in the right way. And it's always stuck with me as, like, there's two sides of any adrenaline boost, right? Like the anxious excitement, but also as to what you're saying, like, I think anxiety has that same other side of the coin. Like, if I think about a first date, like, first dates come with a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
Am I going to show up okay? Are they going to like me? Am I going to like them? What if we don't have anything to talk about? What are we going to do? How's this going to go? Are we going to kiss at the end? But also the flip side of that is that it's so exciting because you don't know. And so when I hear you talk about, like, pulling some of that anxiety in and having comfort with it, like, it makes me think, well, that's the way you get the other side of the coin. Like if you pick up that coin, you get that this is an uncomfortable conversation, but also kind of an exciting conversation. Like we've never talked about this before. We've never like gone here in a relation. Like, and I mean, comfort's always enticing, but
Always.
I think that's, what you're saying is like you have to, I think, you have to welcome both sides of the coin, of the adrenaline coin, into a relationship if you want the good side, which is, I think, what creates that sort of feeling of aliveness or the spark.
Yeah. I'm sensing a real tie back to what you do here, but there's this thing that David Schnartz talks about where he talks about having a positive reflected sense of self. And he says, I should look for the quote, but I'm not going to clickety clack on my keyboard. I'll summarize or paraphrase one of my favorite quotes from him. He says, most of us get married for the wrong reasons. And then we have to learn the right reasons to stay married. And the wrong reasons that we get married it's because we like the positive reflected sense of self that we get from our partner. Oh my gosh. This person laughs at my jokes. They think I'm sexy. They think I'm interesting. They don't complain when I tell the same story over and over again. They want to hold my hand. They want to kiss me. They want to be with me more than anybody else in the world. And it feels good to be seen this way. Like they don't see the flaws that everybody else sees in me. They don't see they think the weird things about me are actually really endearing and cute. You know, it's like, oh, I love the way that I'm being perceived. And we fall in love with this, like the version of yourself that is being reflected back at you is the version that you want to believe
Right.
you is like reality. And then you get into a relationship and all of a sudden it doesn't take very long, I think, for most people to realize that your partner is also can start reflecting back at you truths that are really difficult to stomach about how annoying you can be, or how critical you can be, or how impatient you can be, or how how judgmental you are, how you have this weakness for gossiping behind people's back, or how cluttery you are. And it just makes, you start to realize that you're actually the source of a lot of their pain, not just, and the version of you that's getting reflected back at you isn't all sunshine and rainbows anymore. It's like, oh, now you're kind of this annoying, nitpicky, grumpy person, and it's making their life really hard, and we don't like that anymore. And so there's this moment where it's like, oh, I can either go find somebody else who perceives me the way that I want to be perceived, or I can take these things that are being reflected back at me and get curious about them and be like, oh, okay, maybe I am a little too grumpy. How can I find a little bit more joy in life? Or maybe I am a little too critical. How can I hold my tongue a little bit more? And I think this is where I'm going to make the segue, because I want to talk about your stuff. I think this idea is the same thing that gets in the way of us enjoying work. I think that this concept is the same thing that makes like bad managers so frequent. I think it's the same thing that like destroys company culture, is that you have a leader or somebody in a position of power who doesn't have the ability to either listen or have a hard conversation or be open to changing things, because the thing that it reflects back at them is that they were doing something wrong, or that that they're not capable in some sort of way. They're reaching their limitations of how they want to be perceived, or something's being reflected back to them that they don't like. And rather than leaning into it and getting curious about it and thinking, how can I grow, and how will this impact our organization if I can grow beyond this and facilitate this like really incredible culture, they just get rid of the dissidents, the people who are like bringing up these things, and they surround themselves with yes people, and the people who just think, generically just like reaffirm everything that the leadership team says. And then you end up in a workplace that's really homogenous, and people are afraid to speak up because they get punished. And people show up dreading work because they're terrified that if they get creative, if they get, if they turn their work into art, if they bring their heart into it, that the response is going to be, they're going to lose their job. or they're going to be on the outs. They're going to be no longer part of like the in crowd, and and there's just so much you can lose by taking that risk when the culture is built around needing to that safety, like needing to reinforce somebody's identity, and that takes a priority over doing good work.
Yeah.
If your good work threatens my view of myself, then I think that's where a lot of cultures die. But I think it's a really hard thing to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true or not?
Well, it's like work relationships are just human relationships,
Yeah.
with a paycheck involved. So I think all the same rules apply. And yeah, I mean, I've thought so much about feedback over the years, and very much feedback, like that's what it is. It's a mirror, right? And so I think what you're saying is like, instead of being like, something's wrong with this mirror, like this mirror is broken. I don't know.
Are you guys seeing the same thing that I'm seeing?
Yeah. It's definitely funhouse mirror. Yeah, to be able to look into it, have someone reflect back to you and be like, oh yeah, I am kind of that way. Like earlier in my career, I remember feedback I kept getting was that I was not decisive enough. And in my mind, I was being inclusive of the team. When I was a younger leader, what do you all think we should do? Like, what are some of the pros? What are the cons? It turns out people were like, can you just tell us where we're going and what we're doing? Not all the time, but like I was erring too far on one side, and people were just like, let's get on with it. And I think because I'd been swimming in all of this like philosophy of like, oh, we don't want authoritative leaders anymore. We want like democratic leaders. But there's also going to be, pros and cons there. Immediately when I got the feedback, I thought like, ugh, they're wrong. They don't know that this is the great, but then you just like take a beat. Like I know better what to do now, which is just like, wait a second for all of my defensiveness to like.
Then you just take a beat. I don't think everybody does that. I don't think most people do that. When they get that moment where they're like, ugh, like, I don't think most people take a beat and go, oh, what could be right here? Like, what could be accurate? I think most people go, oh, these people, I've seen a lot of companies where the response is, oh, those people don't belong here. They're not rowing in the same direction as us, or they're, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe they're not a good culture fit here if they don't believe the way that I'm doing things is the right way. Maybe this just isn't the spot for them.
I mean, I've definitely seen leaders respond like that. Yeah, and like to your point, because it threatens their self-view.
You're the expert in this, though. What do you think is the more common response? Do you think the more common response is the defensiveness, or do you think it's the gradual acceptance and curiosity?
Honestly, what I've probably seen the most is, it sort of sounds like this. I already know all the feedback about me. People say I'm too micromanagey in this, but you know what? I've been successful. This is just the way I am. I'm good at lots of other things. Take me or leave me. I think that's what I see the most, because I do think leaders know the wrong answer.
It's such a boomer thing to say. I'm sorry.
So boomer. All of us, everyone watching this, is picturing a boomer manager in their mind. That's like,
everybody knows.
I told you to bring your whole self to work. I'm just doing that too.
Yes. I am who I am. I'm an old dog. Can't teach old dog new tricks.
Continue this point. But
because people know like the wrong answer is to be defensive. So this is like the right, quote unquote, better way of being defensive, which is like, I see your feedback, but so my brain went there at like, how can we just take a beat, let that initial like defensiveness, just literally, I think it just takes some time. This is me being an amateur psychologist again, but I remember reading some research on like half-life of the chemicals in your brain. Like if you get angry, you just have to wait for the half-life to proceed, where all of your amygdala is calming down. And then all of a sudden you don't feel all riled up anymore. And so if you can just take the beat and be like, I'm annoyed at this, I won't be in 30 minutes, and then I can think more calmly about it. Anyway, so that's where one place my brain went. The other place is, there was a big push around appreciative inquiry, or maybe you've heard this term, but this notion of like, we don't need to go looking for each other's flaws. Like, what if we look for what's going right in the system? And I think this was sort of a pendulum swing from, I don't know, maybe a decade or two ago. There was, like so much analytics and strategy, and we're going to dissect the system and root cause analysis in sort of like org design space. And then from that came the appreciative inquiry, what's going right, or strengths finder became a really big thing. Like, let's just, like, we don't need everybody in an organization to be great at everything. Like, we just need the people to be good at what their jobs are. Like, if you're a copywriter, I don't care if you can't do something on Excel that's fancy, like that, that's fine. And I always really appreciated that in many ways. I think from an instinctual level as well, because I know the workplaces where I have felt best, or maybe I'm just falling into this trap you were talking about, are the ones where I felt like I had a manager or a leader that saw me in the best way, like that did reflect back. Like, I think of myself as a creative person. If a leader is like, oh yeah, Bree's really creative, I'm like, oh, am I? It's, it's that sort of initial first date reflected self you were talking about. But I think that's really powerful in many ways, because if we are sort of wired maybe or inclined to want that from a partner, it's also important in our teammates and our bosses to feel like we're seen for the best parts of ourselves. Like in the way that if you like a body part, like, oh, I think I have great hair. And then if you want to date and someone's like, oh, your hair is so great, you probably feel like, oh, they notice, right? Like they're picking up on things that you already hope are seen in the world. And that's
that positive reflected sense of self, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. And
you
I think
see me the way I want to be seen.
Right?
That's a powerful thing.
That's a drug right there.
It is a drug, and you can use it to your advantage 100%.
Right. And so like if we're trying to boost engagement, like that's just seeing the best parts of people. That's I think there's a place to start.
There's two levers to pull. One lever is fixing what isn't working, and the other lever is reinforcing and incentivizing and acknowledging what is working. And that's actually the more powerful lever. The second one. That's what I hear you saying.
I think so. Like people, surely we need to like be honest about what we're not doing well or good, or how we're affecting other people. But I do think it's the more powerful lever organizationally, especially because you don't need, like in a partnership, as you were saying, like you're often asked to be everything to the other person at work. You need to be a really great marketer. You don't need to be everything to the company. In fact, your role is like defined as a slice. So if you can be great at that one thing, oftentimes that's plenty and can feel really good.
And there's something really special about seeing the people around you and noticing what they are really good at and calling it out, like shortening the gap between your brain and your mouth, especially when it comes to positive things. So I work at a company called Nectar.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with them at all?
No, I just remembered I wanted to hear about it. That's why.
So Nectar started as a recognition and rewards software. And the idea is like every employee gets a bank account of points, and throughout the month, you can spend those points on your coworkers when you see them doing something awesome, when they're helping you out, or they go above and beyond, or they do something really well. And the points, they can then be redeemed for like gift cards, travel vouchers, restaurant, whatever you want it to be redeemed for. Amazon, doesn't matter. So it gives employees flexibility to like go above and it gives them an incentive to go above and beyond because they could be recognized and get like a public shout out or something like that. And then the points like gives you flexibility to redeem them. And I've been there since February, so coming up just past 6 months. And I there's like two things I want to share. Number one, like the points there's not like a high monetary value to them, but I show up to work every day hoping somebody's going to give me a shout and that it'll show up on a Slack channel. And I have experienced how powerful it can be to be in an environment where like you're incentivized to look for the good, and you're incentivized to not just look for it, but to call it out and call it out publicly and share it with your team and share it with the company and be like, oh my gosh, this is something really incredible that somebody did. And everybody can see it. Like that is like, I mean, that's my love language right there, is like having somebody see a contribution that I've made. And then they have this, my heart broke yesterday because I showed up to work, and they have this streak feature where it keeps track of the number of weeks in a row that you have given a shout out. And I had an unbroken streak from the first week that I started. And last week we moved and I took a couple of days off, and I flaked and I didn't recognize somebody in the 2 days that I was in the office, and my streak broke and I was crushed. So I went from like 30 consecutive weeks of giving shout outs to my peers every week and back down to 0. And it was really fun. So it's like become this part of my world where I literally I'm constantly looking for ways to appreciate my coworkers, and I'm hoping that people will see the little things that I do to go above and beyond to do my job well. And yeah, I think you hit on something really special when you talked about that lever, that looking for the good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry about your streak. That is a bummer.
Thank you. It had a bigger emotional impact
Our
than
condolences.
anticipated.
Our condolences.
Congratulations on the house.
I wrote a company-wide Slack message about how sad I was because I wanted people to share and then a bunch of other people were like, oh my gosh, the same thing happened to me. Like I had this unbroken streak and you can never get it back. Like you can start over at 0, and you work your way up, but it's like,
but that pity
you'll
party
always
of other
know.
people who
You'll
reached
always
out and were
know.
like, I have experienced this too.
Yes, it was a little validating. It felt really nice.
That's an interesting
So
one.
thank you for your condolences.
Yes.
Bree, go ahead. You had
Yeah. Well, also it reminded me. So I had a previous career. I was a teacher, so taught 7th grade math and high school math and physics, and I was an instructional coach for a while as well. So I went to this instructional coach training. Like how do I as a teacher help to train other teachers? And as part of that, they gave us this rubric for observing another teacher teaching. And so like, what are the things you would want to quantify about a teacher to give them feedback and help them grow? And one of the metrics was, I wish I remembered the specific name. It was the ratio of positive to negative positive to negative
like feedback, commentary,
feedback.
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
And
familiar
so
with this.
So you would want a 5-to-1 ratio is what we were shooting for.
It's the magic ratio. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so maybe this. Yeah. So like.
Well, this is also Gottman research, but
Oh.
continue.
Yeah.
There's a
This shows
really
up in a
interesting
bunch of-
overlap.
This is
Yeah.
probably where this comes. Yes. So we would always look for, like, the less experienced teachers would say, like, put that notebook away, put your backpack away, look up, right?
Be
like
quiet.
It was all corrections as opposed to finding the one kid in class who's like, thank you for having your notebook out and ready. Like, thank you, other student, for like being really on top of this. And then it just creates the climate of everyone is like, oh, like it's sort of like plants, like phototropism towards the sun. It's like, where is the sun in the room?
The
And
way
then
to get
people
noticed
orient.
in this room is to do the right thing,
Exactly.
not do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this is not the exact same concept, but the Gottman relationship, the Gottman research that mirrors this, is they discovered this thing called the magic ratio. And they found that the happiest, most fulfilled couples have a ratio of 20 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction. And
Wow.
during times of conflict, that drops down to 5-to-1. And then the couples that were most likely to get divorced and just be miserable overall had roughly a 1-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions, especially typically during conflict. So yeah, that number of like your ability to show up in life looking, when I say looking for the good, I don't mean like manufacturing the good, but like being able to call out the positive things that you see, I think has a huge impact just across the board on everything that you do.
Yeah. And then also further, nothing wrong with manufacturing some good, I think, like,
especially in a 7th grade classroom.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to, yes, exactly. The classroom
amongst
management.
13-year-olds. Yeah.
This conversation is making me want to be a better dad.
Oh my gosh.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do have a family. You made it.
Yeah.
Who did you end up marrying, and how many kids do you have? And
I married this lovely woman named Angeline. We just celebrated our 9th anniversary, and we have 2 daughters together. We have Aurora, who's 5 and just started kindergarten, and Millie is 2.5, and they are both so much fun as long as they're not playing in a room alone together. Because then it's like instant tears.
Oh,
We're learning a lot about like sharing and things right now. And anyway,
sharing is hard.
Bree, shout out from your direction too, because one of my favorite things is how you actually write about your husband and the family and vacations with other couples. Like there's stuff in the book where I was like, oh wow, this is getting there.
Give me a teaser.
Give Nate a teaser.
Oh yeah, I mean, so
Wait,
like the book, yeah.
Can I want to. Can I ask you? I'm going to ask you a different question.
Okay.
They'll hopefully set you up to talk about this. I want to know what it is that is so special about your husband that you chose him over everybody else on the planet.
Oh, I'm gonna have to tell him to listen to this now.
We're not even gonna clip this out. Find this.
You gotta listen to the whole thing.
Okay, so I've always had a type, which was like pretty nerdy tall dudes. And Brad, when I met him, was in a math PhD program and 6'2". So I was already off to a great start.
Fantastic.
Our first date, we did logic puzzles most of the time, which is like
lateral thinking puzzles.
I was just saying, what level of lot? You talking to?
Yeah, like I'm trying to remember some of. There's like the pirate puzzle, or it's sort of like you set up, 10 prisoners are in a row, and you can't see the one behind you, and the one in front is wearing an orange hat, and how many prisoners before you figure out what color hat you're wearing, like this kind of puzzle. And like I just loved how he lit up about the puzzle. Like his intellectual curiosity was really attractive. Like it's just also happened to be like something that I found fun. I was a math teacher at the time. So there was all that. I thought he was super hot. That didn't hurt as well. That's sort of like what initially attracted me to him. But there's also more like structural things as well. Like we rarely fight about, almost never, not even rarely, like fight about money or where to live. Like in many ways, we just sort of have the same philosophies about how to live a life. And so that's made life really easy. Not perfect, but easy in that way. And then honestly, like even now, my favorite thing is watching like stupid sitcoms with him, because when he laughs, it like lights me up from this like very deep part in my soul to see him laugh. And he's a great dad. You
guys have kids?
Yeah, we have a 10-year-old daughter.
Awesome. Love it.
He's so like goofy with her. And she loves that too. Gosh, I don't know. What's my answer? Logic puzzles.
It's fun hearing you talk about this, and then over your shoulder, like around your head, I can see all these little memories and moments that validate all the things that you're saying.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Like this is him up here with my daughter. But yeah, I write about him in the book. I write about Arden in the book. Garrett and Janessa are like our friends that we travel with every summer. Janessa is my best friend from high school. So I write about them in the book. Like I wanted to write a book that was human and fun in and of itself. Like, it felt really wrong to write a book about humanity at work with my business mask on and just citing the research and being very professional about it.
Right.
Like, I felt like I just have to be a human. And so I write all about, the time when Arden was little, and I felt like I was reading her a bedtime story, and I was like, oh, I have more like Slacks and emails to get back to. And so I'm like, "Ugh, she's not going to notice." I started turning 2 pages of the bedtime story at once. I'm like, she's not following the plot. She was like 3 or 4 years
She
old.
can handle this.
Right. But it was such a crucible moment for me because she caught me and she said, "You're not doing your best." And I thought, oh my God, I'm not. Like, I'm trying to do my best for work, and I am like slacking on bedtime stories. That does not feel good. And that's not how I want to live my life. And it's not how I want my daughter growing up feeling like I got the leftovers after my mom did her best at work. So I put that in the book. I read them all to Arden. I got her approval. But it just felt important. It felt important to share because one of my greatest beliefs is that the more human we can be at work, the more we enjoy ourselves, the more empathy we have for each other, the more that we can also give each other feedback and have that be like not a terrible, crazy, threatening thing, but just like 2 humans trying to get better at something together. So, yeah.
There's a shortage of workplace or work-focused books that don't pull all that in. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about going through your book was going, this is now actually acknowledging all these other types of relationships that triangulate around the 5 days a week or however often we spend in our work with our work people.
I'm excited to read your book.
Oh, you're going to really like this.
I know.
I have some notes. I want to bring up some stuff you guys said and dive through a few of these things because we crossed a lot of great things in this conversation. The whole like stoic philosophy of acknowledging, can it be Friday already? This piece, and Nate, I'm kicking this to you first because Bree said this. Like what is that? You almost have to understand some profound sadness or despair or existential dread to go, I think I'm taking work or I'm taking this stuff too seriously.
I think, I think part of it, I think part of it has to deal with ourselves and taking things a little bit too seriously, or maybe not like being present enough and making the most of, just the normal everyday grind of life. And I also think that a part of that mentality comes from just I don't know if you guys can feel it, but just in the world, there seems to be I wouldn't be surprised if 9 out of 10 people, if I asked them if they could have one thing today, what would it be? If they would say just a nap. Like everybody's exhausted emotionally and physically. Everybody, like, things are getting more expensive. We're working harder, and like AI is coming, and everybody's talking about doing more with less all the time. And it's like, man, I'm already doing so much with so little. Like, how much more can I, you know what I mean? I think there's this underlying fatigue in society. And I think that Friday represents like a short window of respite where you might be able to like take a 15-minute break and mow your lawn while you listen to a podcast that you really like uninterrupted, or maybe you'll get to go to the swimming pool and bob around for 20 minutes before your kids start screaming they want to go home. But like that I think there's one element of it is hey, we need to just do a better job of being present and human at work. And the other part is like, there's just this crushing, I think, sense of exhaustion and maybe some dread and fear that people just want to break from. And it's hard to get. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm being a downer, but
I don't think so. I think that's kind of like it's this blanket that we're all feeling right now, culturally, societally, whatever.
I hope I'm not the only one. I hope.
It's just you, Nate. Everyone else is having a really great time.
It's only me that feels this way.
This mirror.
There's something wrong with this mirror, guys.
Something wrong with this mirror. But I think it's important that we have to, like, being present Bree comment on this then. Being present is actually acknowledging all those things, both in yourselves and others. And I'm actually going to call out one of the other things. I think it's a difference is not a defect. You said this too, right?
Difference versus defect. Yeah.
Difference versus defect, where seeing what's going on in you, recognizing what's going on in you, recognizing what's going on in others, and just trying to not look at those things as like defective or a weight that tears us down or whatever else. How do you think about that with the blanket of dread that Nate so poetic described?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the difference versus defect I use in the framework actually of feedback. Like so often we're giving people feedback on a difference as opposed to a defect. Like I would give the example, like if somebody in your team had a Boston accent, you wouldn't say, I need to give you some feedback. You speak funny. You know, like you would never do that. Like that's just a different accent. It's not a defect. And so I think that's as relates to other people. Like, can we be more imaginative and accepting of the different ways that we show up at work, the different ideas we have, and our different strengths? But I think that also applies to yourself as well, if it's what you're getting at, Matt. Like, is it bad that I didn't clear my inbox today? Am I defective for not doing that? Or like, maybe it's just a different way of living that I'm not going to respond to every email within 12 hours.
Right.
And maybe I like that better. Maybe I'm just going to be the kind of person who's a little bit of a slow responder and feel fine about that. And so I think there's lots of ways in which we can be more kind to ourselves, especially under the wet blanket of life, you know, if it feels hard.
Yeah.
I wrote a piece recently called the most days theory, or the idea that if you're doing most things most days, that's plenty. And you can decide for yourself what enough is on any given day. That we hold ourselves to such a high bar. And, you know, Nate, as you're saying, like things are more expensive. How can I do even more with even less? And, well, maybe we just don't do even more. I don't know. Like, can we hold ourselves to a slightly lower bar? It also reminds me actually of relationships you're talking about. Like, my husband's not great at like dissecting like interpersonal relationships with me like I like to do sometimes. Like, well, then this person had said this. Do you think this means that? But, you know, I've got other friends for that. I don't know. Can we like lower the bar? I don't know. Is that my soapbox? Let's lower the bar, everybody.
I'm like laughing because you sound like my therapist right now. I'm not joking. Like this is what we're working on in therapy is, I don't know if this might be just a me thing, or it might be the culture I was raised in or the family I was raised in, or it might be a generational thing. I don't know, but there's something about, your problems will go away if you just try a little bit harder. If you just were a little bit more like organized or thoughtful or attentive or put in a little bit more effort, then maybe some of these problems that are weighing on you would just not be there. And so there's this constant need to like always do more and be more. And the fear of like not doing enough and having everything kind of collapse underneath you. And then I think that can bleed into your relationships as well. My kids are leaving for school.
Aw.
Bye. It's okay.
We wish them a good day too.
Have a good day. Love you.
Avoid the blanketed despair of the universe. Please.
I've noticed that I have taken that perspective that I have for myself and put it on my partner. That like there's a way of doing things and we have to get them done a certain way. And if we don't do that, it's exactly what you said. Like the difference is actually a defect. Like it's so easy to go into that critical mindset and be like, you're doing this different than me. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't love the way that you're doing it. You're defective.
Right.
And it's like, it's so hard for me, speaking personally, it's really hard for me to slow down, take a deep breath and be like, I'm just going to sit in the mess. The metaphorical or literal mess, and just be like, I'm okay with this. This is just life and it can be messy and I can learn to be comfortable in the mess. And that can be a gift in and of itself. And it's a really difficult thing. And really, it's like a very present struggle for me right now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, I think it resonates with me. So maybe it is something of like a generational, assuming we're in the same generational. But this notion that like we're supposed to whack-a-mole all the tasks in our life.
Yeah.
And that there's a feeling of discomfort if there are some just sitting there. I remember this like poster my grandparents had at their house, and it said, God put me on this earth to accomplish a certain number of things. Right now, I'm so far behind, I will never die. And like
that exact same placard was on a wall, like at a church we went to.
That's hilarious.
And I remember being fascinated by that joke being made in the house of God. But
I love that so much.
Well, you like it's funny in and of itself, but also it makes me like the act of living, the act of being alive is doing things that haven't been finished yet. You know, like, so I mean, I'm not that good at this because I'm also like trained to overachieve and get things done and all of that. But I've been trying more and more to be like, oh, that thing's not done. Like, lucky me, I get to live another day and do it tomorrow, which does not come naturally, but I'm trying.
Well, from Nate's therapist to like the daily conversation I have with my wife over my overachieving tendencies and want to do this. And as she always reminds me of from other books on the shelf, is it's like enough is a boundary that you set yourself. And until you accept the responsibility of setting that boundary of where your enough lies or how much you're going to get done in a day, which I love that reframe that you have on this, Bree, like that's where flourishing comes from. It's the other side of going like, oh, I know where that boundary is. And I'm okay. I'm okay because I placed it. And I'm not going to judge myself because I didn't respond to that email from when I was on vacation yet. And I'm feeling existential guilt about it. I could keep you guys here for hours. I have to ask you this question.
Can we though?
Can we? I don't want to do the rest of my day.
I really feel like I would flourish.
You're not alone in that request. I wrote
question.
down on the back of this card why I wanted the two of you to meet. Now, granted, I wrote it down before this conversation, so my answer is already wrong. But I want to hear why you guys think now that you got to meet each other. So, Nate, why do you think I wanted to introduce you to Bree today?
Can I quote Gonzo?
Please.
From the Muppets?
We're always here for a Gonzo.
There's not a word yet for old friends who've just met.
Oh,
I think you recognized that our souls, our brains, our lives mirror each other in some really beautiful ways. And probably the things that matter the most to me are the things that matter the most to her. And in not just like matter, but matter to a point where we were willing to get so curious about it that we would dedicate like careers to those parts of our, like, not just, it's I'm going to read a book about it, but it's like, I'm going to dedicate like my life to figuring some of this stuff out. And I think, good matchup. Great job, Matt.
Good matching. Bree, same question. What do you think? Why did I want you two strangers to bump into each other on this
oh my
Tuesday
gosh. Yeah, I suppose similarly, like I'm still so enamored with the fact that you had a personal challenge and then you were like, let's find the answer to this in the world and spend a decade doing it. And I agree. Like I feel so lucky that I could take the time to write a book because I was also trying to do the same. Like, oh my God, what are we getting wrong about? Like I felt so torn up about like, how am I spending my days? How are we spending my days? Well, I don't know. Let me try and write a book about it and see if I can find some answers. Like the book, they say you write the book you most need to read. And this was definitely that for me. I'm just so fascinated by how you're fascinated in people and relationships. And it's also at the core of how I think about work. It's just a series of relationships and we're just trying to get along with each other and have a good time with each other while we're working. Which is, I think, why we had so much to talk about, because the science and research and just like daily practice of having relationships at work is similar to having personal partnerships as well. Anyway, I love the conversation. We could have gone on for ages.
It's wild that you wrote a book about workplace, like enjoying our workplace and what we get out of it. And now I work at a company that's dedicated. It's literally, we're a culture company. And then I spent a decade studying marriage, and you worked at freaking eHarmony as a researger. Like, those are weird.
Those are
weird overlaps.
Yeah.
Weird overlaps. Like, yeah, definitely. We're going to be friends. So I'm going to stay on afterwards and get like your phone number, your email address, or something so we can keep in contact.
Oh, the
friend
email
starter kit.
The email connection comes.
Do your thing, Matt.
After this.
This is the cool blurb.
This is what I wrote. Yeah, I wrote down. It's our relationships with our relationships, including ourselves, all the way down. That's what I thought.
All the way down.
Fun. All the way down.
You're a magician.
Bree Groff, if people want to find more, plug the book by all means, because today was fun, right? Today was fun. What's the book? Where should they bug you on the internet?
It sure was. You can find more at my website, breegroff.com. From there, you can sign up for my Substack, where I write a little bit about work and life weekly. You can buy the book, which I would love, and I hope you all will love. Find me on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Nate Bagley, what about you? Same question. Where should people bug you on the internet if they want more information?
You can go to growthmarriage.com. That's where all my relationship stuff is, and you'll be able to find your way back to me in some way that way.
One way or another, find him on LinkedIn too. You want to see some of the crazy video content he's doing for work, because it's pretty
We're doing
wild.
some fun stuff. It's really cool.
Bree, your mind is going to be blown when you see some of the projects that he's got.
I'm so excited
right now. They're so friggin' cool.
No, before you sign off, can we do it? Can we do like a chapter 2 at some point? I would love to come back and do like a follow-up interview. You don't have to say yes or no. I just want you to know that that's a desire that I have, that I'm putting on the table, that I would love to talk to Bree again.
Love that. Own your desires. I desire that as well. I'm just chiming in.
Not only am I putting that one on the table for a dual episode, because I haven't done like a 2 people back, but I've been thinking about this lately. Like literally this morning was thinking about this.
I volunteer as tribute.
So you volunteer as tribute.
I'm in.
Okay. And you're going to get invited back anyway, because I invite everybody back to talk about somebody else from another episode at some point when that jumps into my head and I go, you should meet them. Let me show you a clip. This is Just Press Record. This is what it's about. Introducing 2 strangers, having a good time together, having a good hang. I'm Matt Ziegler. That's Nate Bagley. That's Bree Groff. And we are out. Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Ziegler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.